As we grow older, we begin to realize that life is no longer about how fast we run, but how deeply we savor each step. Once, we were so used to noise, piles of responsibilities, the sounds of children playing, endless conversations and ambitions pushing us forward. But now, in the silence that once felt unfamiliar, we find something warm, peace. Perhaps you've sat alone on your porch, listening to the wind rustling through the leaves, and smiled for no reason. That's your soul speaking in a quiet moment full of meaning. And truly, there is nothing strange about this. In fact, the subtle psychological and emotional shifts we experience with age teach us one important truth: that silence is not loneliness, but a space to return home, to ourselves. When the world feels too loud, we begin to choose solitude, not because we are withdrawing, but because we are seeking closeness to our inner selves, to God, and to what truly matters. At this stage in life, we no longer crave crowds to feel alive. Instead, we discover that in stillness, we can finally breathe. Welcome to Elderly Rise, a channel dedicated to those of you walking through the most meaningful phase of life. Here we share inspiration, insight, and the wisdom that comes with every strand of silver hair and every line on the face, not as a sign of weakness, but as a crown of experience. In today's video, we'll explore 6 psychological changes that make you cherish quiet moments more than ever before. Not just theories, but real truths many of us have come to know, and we hope they remind you that you are not alone. Let's begin this journey together. Number 1. As we grow older, many of us begin to notice that loud noises, crowds, and constant activity, which once felt normal, now feel overwhelming and draining. Places that used to bring joy, like shopping centers, big family gatherings, or even a constantly running TV, can suddenly feel too much. But this doesn't mean we're becoming antisocial or withdrawn. On the contrary, it's a natural signal from the brain, reflecting changes in how it processes and responds to external stimulation. Psychologically, this change is known as sensory filtering. When we are young, our brains are highly active in absorbing all kinds of information from the environment: sounds, lights, even other people's emotions. But as we age, the brain becomes more selective. It begins to filter out what's unnecessary, focusing only on what truly matters. The brain no longer wants to chew on too much stimulation at once. This is its way of protecting mental well-being and reducing avoidable stress. As a result, we find more comfort in silence and calm environments. The sense of peace that comes from sitting quietly in a silent room, hearing the ticking of a clock, or listening to the wind rustling in the afternoon is more than just a simple moment. It's deeply healing. During these quiet moments, brain waves slow down, moving into a calmer rhythm, signaling the body is entering a restful and relaxed state. That's why many elderly people feel most at ease when they're alone without noise from the TV or phone, just immersed in gentle, calming silence. This craving for peace also reflects the emotional maturity that comes with age. In our younger years, we often felt the need to stay busy to feel useful. But now we realize that stillness doesn't mean laziness or loneliness. It's actually the highest form of peace. When we sit in silence, we no longer feel the urge to explain ourselves to anyone. We simply exist, and that is enough. So if you've recently found yourself enjoying quiet mornings, peaceful afternoons, or undisturbed evenings, know that you're not alone. Your brain is doing its best to protect you from mental exhaustion. Embrace those moments. Welcome that silence with gratitude. Because in the quiet, we often find the best version of ourselves, the version that no longer chases approval, but simply rests in peace. Number 2. As we grow older, Many of us naturally begin to withdraw from noise and crowds, and instead find comfort in solitude. But this is not a sign of loneliness. It's a sign that we are starting to listen to the quiet voice within, the one we often ignored in our younger years. In our youth, life moves fast. We chase achievements, work, and recognition. But in our later years, the desire to conquer the world slowly turns into a deeper desire to understand ourselves. We begin to ask, what really matters in life? Quiet moments now feel more precious because they give us space to reflect. We look back at the past, the good and the bad, not to regret it, but to understand it. We think about how we've lived, who we've loved, who we've hurt, and who has given us meaning. In honest reflection, we discover lessons no school can teach, lessons that only time and experience can reveal. Silence becomes a window, not to the outside world, but to the inside of our soul. Many elderly people begin to write journals, pray more often, or simply sit quietly without distractions. These moments are not wasted time. They are natural forms of meditation, quiet conversations with ourselves. We no longer need validation from others because we've come to know who we truly are. This is when we realize not everything needs to be explained, not every wound needs to be reopened, and not everyone needs to be convinced. Reflection becomes a calm form of healing, and often silence is the best kind of therapy. Self-reflection also helps us make wiser choices. We start to follow what feels right in our heart, not just what looks good to others. In the stillness, our inner voice becomes louder. We're no longer quick to react or to speak. Instead, we pause, we think, and we respond with calmness. Life becomes more meaningful, not because we've achieved more, but because we've become more aware, more understanding. So, if you now enjoy sitting alone, sipping tea, listening to the wind, or watching the sunset, it's not a sign that you are pulling away from life. It's a sign that you are finally present in it. Self-reflection is not an escape. It is a quiet return to wisdom. And in the end, only those who can befriend silence will truly discover peace. Number 3. As we grow older, we begin to realize that inner peace is far more valuable than social recognition or a busy life. In our younger years, many of us lived under pressure to always be productive, to achieve more, and to please others. But in later life, we become more sensitive to the emotional toll of constant noise, conflict, and chaos. We start to understand just how precious a calm heart is, and how loud the world can feel if we don't learn to filter it. Emotional peace becomes a real need, not just a passing desire. Many older adults say that loud crowds, unnecessary arguments, or overly busy environments now feel exhausting, even draining. This isn't simply because the body grows tired, but because the heart and mind no longer wish to be stirred by meaningless things. The restlessness that we once buried under activity now feels even stronger in noisy places. That's why silence becomes a safe space, a place where thoughts can rest, feelings can heal, and the soul can find its center again. Emotional peace also has a deep connection to sincere relationships. We begin to understand that not every relationship brings calm. Some bring drama, pressure, or even reopen old wounds. At this stage in life, we're no longer afraid to walk away from people who disturb our peace. We learn to choose healthy friendships, respectful family bonds, and meaningful time spent alone. Because now we know there's no point in holding on to connections that leave our hearts weary. On the other hand, as the body becomes more sensitive, we also grow more in tune with gentle emotions that we once ignored. Our hearts are more easily touched by a warm smile, a quiet prayer, or even a simple good morning from a loved one. We start to feel more alive in each moment. Emotional peace is no longer just about avoiding conflict, but about creating space within ourselves for soft, loving, and comforting things. The small things that once seemed ordinary now bring deep serenity. And this, perhaps, is the beauty of aging. We become more honest with ourselves. We no longer tolerate what disturbs our hearts, just to look good in the eyes of others. We begin to prioritize comfort in our soul, not the opinions of the world. And that's why silence is no longer emptiness. It is protection, it is self-love, and it is proof that we are finally learning what it means to live in peace. Number 4. As we grow older, we begin to understand that life isn't about how much we have, but how deeply we experience it. In our younger years, we were often focused on achievements, degrees, careers, popularity, or the number of friends we had. But now those things slowly fade into the background. What rises to the surface is a desire to live each day with meaning, not just with busyness. We learn to slow down and to take a closer look at what truly matters. Simple moments start to feel far more valuable than the activities we once considered impressive. Sitting on the porch during a quiet afternoon with a spouse, listening to a grandchild talk about school, or simply sipping a warm cup of tea while looking out at the garden. These moments now feel like unmatched treasures. We no longer need noise, excitement, or attention. What we truly seek is presence, calm, and a deep sense of gratitude for the breath we still take each day. This psychological shift often happens without us even realizing it. We begin to avoid events that are too loud, too crowded, or too draining. It's not that we don't want to socialize anymore. It's just that our energy is now reserved for what brings true peace and happiness. We become wiser in choosing where to place our time and hearts. Not because we are tired, but because we know now, not everything that seems important is actually important. The value of our time and attention increases. We realize that not every person and not every agenda deserves space in our thoughts or emotions. In fact, by limiting ourselves only to what is meaningful, life feels lighter and more honest. We no longer push ourselves to keep up with the pace of others. We begin creating our own pace, one that is slower, calmer, and filled with quiet awareness. And maybe that is where true wisdom lives, somewhere only time can lead us. We stop measuring our days by how much we've done and begin measuring them by how deeply we've lived. Focusing on what truly matters is not a sign that we've lost our energy for life. It's proof that we've found the heart of it. Because the most valuable things in life often come in the simplest, quietest, and most sincere forms. Number 5. When we were younger, we often competed to have as many friends as possible. It felt like the more social connections we had, the more valuable we were. We wanted to be included in every circle, attend every gathering, and be part of every community. But as we grow older, we begin to realize not all relationships bring peace. Some only drain our energy, take up our time, and leave us emotionally exhausted. So we start to choose more carefully who truly brings calm into our lives. In our later years, we become more sensitive to the energy of the people around us. We can feel who is sincere and who is simply making small talk. Maybe in the past, we tolerated shallow conversations or meaningless interactions, but now we crave real presence, not just physically, but emotionally. We want to be around people who make us laugh without judgment and who can sit in silence with us without awkwardness. This change doesn't mean we become closed off or antisocial. It means we become wiser. We now understand that our time is precious. We no longer want to spend it maintaining relationships that wear us down. We begin to avoid drama, gossip, or unnecessary conflict. And sometimes we quietly let go of people who were once very close, realizing that not all relationships are meant to last forever. In the quiet moments we now choose, we often find a purer kind of friendship. It might just be one or two people who still reach out to us, but those connections are deep, honest, and full of warmth. We don't need to talk every day. A simple, genuine message is enough. We begin to value closeness that comes from the heart, not from routine. And in that, we feel grateful. Because even as our circle gets smaller, the meaning within it grows deeper. Many seniors feel lonely, not because they are truly alone, but because they are surrounded by people who no longer match their spirit. This is an important time to listen to our hearts. What do we really need? Sometimes one warm smile from an old friend brings more peace than 10 empty conversations with new faces. We're not looking for noise anymore. We're searching for peace. Being selective doesn't mean we cut people off carelessly. It means we now see that quality matters more than quantity. We begin to set healthy boundaries, learn to say no gently, and nurture relationships that give us something meaningful in return. This is a form of self-love, protecting our hearts, keeping our spirits light. And in the end, we learn that solitude, when chosen with awareness, is far more joyful than forced company. The relationships we hold on to in our later years reflect the wisdom we've gathered throughout life. We no longer need many. We only need enough. Enough love, enough understanding, and enough presence to warm the soul. In that quiet, we don't feel alone. We feel whole. Number 6. As we grow older, we begin to realize that time is no longer something to be taken lightly. In the past, we often said, "There's always tomorrow." But now we know deep in our hearts that each new day is a gift. This psychological shift isn't about fearing time running out. It's about a deeper awareness that every second carries meaning if we are calm enough to notice it. In our younger years, life was a constant chase, chasing dreams, status, work, or recognition. We live by deadlines and goals. But in our later years, our view of time begins to change. We no longer race against the clock, but instead walk alongside it. We want to be fully present in each moment, not just pass through it. This is a sign of emotional and spiritual maturity, something only life experience can bring. The moments that once seemed ordinary now bring quiet joy. Sitting on the porch while watching the evening sky, listening to the gentle sound of rain, or simply enjoying the aroma of warm tea, all of these moments feel richer, deeper. The silence that comes with them is no longer seen as emptiness, but as a sacred space where we find peace within ourselves. This change is also shaped by the psychology of reflection and meaning. Many older adults start to think more deeply about life. What have I done? What remains unsaid? How will I be remembered? In silence, these thoughts come freely, and they help us be more honest with ourselves. We no longer worry about appearances or social mass. We begin to live with greater sincerity. We also start to avoid things that waste our time. Small talk, pointless arguments, and mentally exhausting activities become unpleasant. Instead, we seek moments alone, to pray, read, or simply sit and do nothing. And in those moments of stillness, we feel truly alive. There is a quiet beauty in doing nothing, because now we understand that being is more important than doing. This tendency is also supported by changes in the brain and emotional patterns. Psychologists call this the positivity effect, where older adults naturally prefer calm, joyful experiences and steer away from conflict. That's why peaceful, unhurried time becomes so valuable. It protects our emotional well-being. Time, once seen as endless, now feels like sand in our hands. Impossible to hold, but beautiful to feel. We can't go back and relive the past, but we can fully embrace the present. That's why many older adults appreciate the simple routines of daily life. Slowly waking up in the morning, sweeping the yard, watering the plants, or watching their grandchildren play. These are quiet ways to honor the time we have. In the end, silence becomes our way of honoring time. In the quiet, we learn to hear our hearts. In the stillness, we find God more closely. And in these calm, unhurried moments, we learn to accept, to let go, and to be thankful. Because now we're no longer chasing time. We're respecting it. The silence we cherish today is not a sign of loneliness. It is a space full of meaning. In the quiet, we rediscover who we truly are. We begin to hear the voice of our heart, a voice that was once drowned out by the noise of the world. Quiet moments give us time to reflect on the life we've lived. All the lessons, the losses, the joys, and the small victories we often forget to be grateful for. In this season of life, we no longer seek validation from the outside. We simply want to live truthfully, peacefully, and humbly, because those are the things that matter most at the end of the journey. So, if your days are now filled with sitting quietly on the porch, listening to the afternoon breeze, or just gazing at the sky while your thoughts wander, know that you are embracing the most genuine phase of life. You are not stepping back. You are rising into a higher awareness. Let the silence become a healing friend, not something to fear. Because in that stillness, your soul is resting, it is growing, and it is preparing to receive life with more peace and more gratitude. This is the moment when you are truly alive, with your whole heart. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. If you felt touched, understood, or realized that the quiet moments in your life have deeper meaning than you ever thought, then please know you are not alone. At Elderly Rise, we believe that every age brings its own light of wisdom, and silence is not loneliness, but a place where your soul finds peace and rest. If you'd like to continue receiving content that calms your heart, inspires your thoughts, and touches your spirit, please click subscribe, tap the like button, and turn on the notification bell. Let's grow together in peace and purpose, one inspiring video at a time.